All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Private equity in college football still going to be a part of the conversation as we move forward. We have some interesting feedback coming in via social. Alex Page tweets in at Mac and Cube. You can be a part of the show there. Text in 205-834-9450. Call into the show, 800-239-9569. How old is the Texas Tech booster that runs their NIL arm? As Greg Byrne is referencing guys like him, who he needs to donate to the athletic department in the future.
Early 40s.
Yeah, I would say Cody's a little bit of an outlier there.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a Mark Cuban with Indiana. If you're leaning on guys like that to help you survive, you're not going to make it.
You just tell me where to find one.
I mean, that's essentially hitting the genetic lottery. Like that's the odds of that are the odds of you having billionaire parents and not having to worry about
Heck
anything.
yeah,
So
I can't.
You're just not going to find a
I'm
ton
telling
of those.
you, the next life, I'm having billionaire parents.
Good.
I can't
Again,
wait.
if you get that lottery ticket, great. But I don't know if it's going to be that easy to go that direction.
You know what we call the billionaire parents?
Oh boy,
LSC, Lucky Sperm Club.
North Dallas Millionaires.
No, Lucky Sperm Club. You're lucky, one of the lucky ones.
Some would say unlucky to deal with a lot of that. We are lucky to have.
I will find a way to through it. I will figure it out.
It could be the egg.
We are lucky to have Dan Wetzel
Lucky Egg
on
Club.
the Higginbotham Hotline from ESPN. He joins us now to discuss first the entry of private equity into college sports. Dan, we've had mixed reactions from a lot of different people. You do a great job viewing college football from multiple lenses. I'm very interested to hear what your initial thought was, maybe even of the good and the bad, when you saw the move that Utah made yesterday.
Yeah, it is. It's inevitable is where we're at. Here's my thing with college athletics. I watched the whole board meeting yesterday and some different stuff with Utah. So they're rightfully concerned themselves about, where is this headed? But to me, college athletics has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. The revenue goes up every single year. We've seen them try to find revenue to get themselves out of spending problems. We have blown up leagues. We have ended rivalries. We've started playoffs. We've extended the season. We play games in neutral sites and every single thing that we've seen, many of them having the real impact. To me, conference realignment is the original sin of the frustration we have right here. And they do not contain spending. And some of that is, $3 million coordinators in football and fancy locker rooms in football and things like that. But the real issue for college athletics, and I think everyone behind closed doors will tell you, is how do you support 20, 24, 28 teams? And how do you have all of these Olympic sports or non-revenue sports that lose money? There's only two sports that make money: football, men's basketball, and that's pretty much it. There's a few outliers. Everything else is a loss. And as long as they try, you say, well, we're wasting a ton of money on football, but football's still bringing in a profit. So you're investing in the part of your business that makes a profit. Until they really address the fact that they can't do this, and that the value, you can place a value on having a tennis team, a soccer team, a this or that isn't bottom line. That's really where the universities are. If the university says, hey, we think it's important for us to have this, they think it's important to have a band. The band doesn't make any money, right? We think we should have a choir. Fine. Those are things universities do. But the problem is we've asked football mainly to support all of these other sports that lose money. And if you literally look at the last year's finances at Utah, the school lost I think the school was down $17 million, and literally the non-revenue sports cost them $17 million. So they would be profitable if in a different era, but they can't do this. And so to get through all that, they spend too much, because you look at the facilities for the school, the teams that are losing money, those cost a ton. The salaries for non-rev coaches are up, all those things. Now you bring private equity. Anyone who's worked with private equity, anyone who's worked at a company, private equity is there to make money. That's it. They don't care. They have no feelings, right? And you bring them in, And those people are going to say, well, we need to turn this thing around to make profit. Well, I'm not the private equity business genius, but when you run a business, you look at the parts of your business that make money and you look at the parts of the business that lose money. And the first thing you would do is say, well, we're never going to make money on our tennis team. We're never going to make money on this. And so I think all of this just puts at some point at tremendous risk all of these non-revenue sports. Now, I'm not even arguing that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the reality, and that's where this is headed. Because if you're going to run college athletics like a business, then a business would cut departments that lose money for 50, 60, 80 years and have no hope of ever making money. That's going to be the first thing on the chopping block. Now, Utah is very protective. What's the governance? How much power does this group have? All of those things, that's fine. But once you let private equity in, you're going to change your mindset. So I think I don't know if I've answered the question, but that's what I kind of look at this as going, this is the first step to a much downgraded non-revenue sports system in college athletics.
Dan Witzel of ESPN with us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You said something there that I found interesting, and I probably wouldn't have normally asked this, but I want to follow up. You said everything else is at a loss. I think we all agree with that. And you might not have any idea about this, but how far have we closed the gap on that with certain sports like women's basketball and college baseball and the growth that we've seen recently? Are a couple maybe in the black now? Are we getting closer with those sports? You may have no idea, but it kind of intrigued me when you said that, because I think we've all known that for a long time, but it does feel like we should be closer with a couple others.
I think there's ways to close the gap. It's my understanding, zero. No women's basketball program makes money, even South Carolina, even Connecticut. And part of that is the salaries to the coaches and the competitive nature. Some of it is things like adding, the increased travel from non-revenue, sports and things like that. Look, if you're playing, let's say you're the Maryland women's basketball program, and there's literally 15 schools you could take a bus to within an hour in Washington, D.C. to play, and instead you're flying everyone to Seattle. The amount of resources put in, because schools, this is a problem. You can't even, if I was an AD, I couldn't even speak this, frankly. I don't work in college athletics, right? But some of the expenses are well, do we really need this? Do you really need a practice facility for the women's basketball team? Do you need, and again, I get it. You're going to get eggs thrown at you for even bringing it up. But this is what private equity does when they come into your company, right? They come in and let's say it's a mom and pop shop and you run this business. You go, well, what is it? Well, that's Uncle Jimmy's second, kid from another marriage. We got to keep him on. No, we don't. He's gone, right? You start doing things that you don't want to do. But no, there is not a profit from these other places. Now, could they increase revenue? Because you see gymnastics has good attendance and things like that. Sure, but they're not profitable, and I don't think many of them can get profitable or even break even. But I would say some you're going to keep. I'm not saying to get rid of women's basketball. I'm not saying to get rid of all these sports. It's just, if you are going to run college athletics like a business and you took one look at these books, and they're all online, the first thing you're going to say is, what are we doing with that? And you go, well, we like having a field hockey team. We like having, okay, that's fine, but that isn't a profit. So that's the part where I look at it and just say, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Totally get it. However, if you're a team like Utah, and I'm not suggesting that Notre Dame all of a sudden start thinking about private equity. I'm not suggesting that Ohio State's all of a sudden thinking oh yeah, hey, let's bring this in. We need an advantage. They already have a built-in advantage. Utah has none. And Utah, frankly, is trying to keep up with the Joneses. So in a world in which you are constantly trying to find a way to create some type of advantage, whether it's financial or if it's on the field, whatever it may be, maybe the financial aspect improves the product on the field. Wouldn't this be something you'd be open to? And I guess what's the downside to thinking differently when in reality you're already on first base when some of the programs you're competing against are rounding third?
Yeah, I agree. So I'm not all down on this. And they talked about this. They said, look, there's risk in not doing anything. Anyone in business knows that. Just standing still, that's a risk. You can't always do things like you did it 6 months ago, a year ago, let alone 50 years ago or 20 years ago. Utah's in a tough spot. Their revenue is $109 million. They spent about $125 or something like that. They had increased their ticket sales, their donor base, everything they could possibly do. They were increasing, and they were running this big deficit. They also their arch rivals BYU, and they don't have a private equity deal, but they have a church behind them.
Yeah.
So they have. How do you deal with that? That's the real private equity is the Church of Latter-day Saints. So you have that. So you got that. But you talk about Ohio State and those. Yes, they don't necessarily need private equity. Ohio State's I think athletic budget about $280 million. But you know what? They're in huge debt, and they were willing to go in on a Big Ten equity deal where the whole league was going to do it because they spend that money every year. They have 32 teams at Ohio State. They have, and there's certain things that, so like the Cleveland Browns do not sponsor 28 teams or 32 teams, right? They just sponsor the Cleveland Browns. They also get taxpayers to build them a stadium. Now, Ohio State doesn't pay taxes. They have a bunch of benefits too. But like, you imagine the debt service on Ohio Stadium or Bryant-Denny Stadium or things like that. Like, things are breaking all the time, and so they have tons of debt. And Ohio State was sitting there saying, as mighty as that is, maybe the healthiest athletic department in the country, them in Texas perhaps, and they're saying we needed the money. It was the University of Michigan, which has actually more money as an institution, has about $20 billion in an endowment. They were saying, why are we making a league-wide deal if we want to do this? They were very smart, Michigan. If we want to do this, let's just do it ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need to be hooked into Rutgers and Iowa and all this stuff.
Made no sense.
And that's what Utah did. They just said, hey, we'll do it ourselves. I'm not like Michigan held the line. I mean, you can hate Go Blue or whatever. You can hate the Michigan.
It's the right move.
They held the line. They are a hero in a thing. So the problem is the spending. It's not the money. The Big Ten has spent 15 years now blowing up college athletics to try to get more money. They destroyed the Big East, the old Big East, which was a good football league and a great basketball league. It's still a great basketball league, but it's different, right? It was a good competitive league, and those teams had fun. Syracuse, Boston College, Pitt, West Virginia. They had a chance to win games and enjoy their seasons. Now they all lose, right? Not good. They destroyed the Big East because we need Rutgers and we need Maryland, and they altered the ACC because they had to get Maryland. They wanted basic cable. Then they had to go and they got Nebraska. That was a little earlier because we need a championship game. That'll bring us the revenue, and that destabilized the Big 12 beyond belief. Then they went to LA. Then they went to the Pac-12. They've destroyed that league. They got all these teams. They've tried everything to get more and more revenue, and they have it. They have tons and tons of money, and they're still broke going, we need private equity. So they've tried to raise the money to get out of these problems. The problem's the spending, and until the spending's addressed, and I don't think it will be for political reasons, and just it's just really hard to stand up and say, hey, we need to cut 6 sports, or we need to do this, or we can't pay a baseball coach or a softball coach this amount of money. That to me is the problem. But if private equity gets in, those conversations are not going to be polite because they're going to sit there and go, there's some guy on a spreadsheet going, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Dan Wetzel joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. One of the reasons that I reached out to you to hop on the show was an article you have up at ESPN.com. The College Football Playoff Committee isn't perfect, but it's the best system we got. One of the great lines from this article that you go with is sort of where we are now compared to maybe where we think we are and where we were. How college football used to love shutting out undefeated teams to even have a chance to play for a national title. And we're now arguing about 10-2 and 9-3 teams being included to have that opportunity to at least make that push. But I want to start with this. As the author of Death to the BCS, how hilarious is it to you that people are now clamoring for computer rankings to make a return to college football?
Yeah. So I don't even mind if we had a computer ranking. I just know that it's impossible, right? But it should be maybe a guide to this. But it is hilarious. People are like, the BCS worked great. Like, dude, no, it didn't. Like, some of those computer formulas back then they were just, God bless these, they were just like super fans that like would sit at home and calculate their own thing. I mean, it would just be,
I happen to love the BCS personally, but
well, I bet you
know,
do. It
you
worked pretty good
guys,
for you.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we didn't want to play Cincinnati. I mean, come on, like it worked fine for me. But yes, I know what you're saying.
Worked pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, but it's no, that is not it. Here's the thing. Okay, Notre Dame is. All right, are we getting another day of the hissy fit, or are we done? Like, are we just like talking to your kids? Like, you done now, or are we still going to have another day? Is it going to be on the View today? Where are we going to hear from these guys? If the ACC's tiebreaker, okay, they have a 5-way tie for second place. If you look at their tiebreaker, the 5th spot was whatever determined got Duke in, whatever formula they came up. Yes. Number 6 was the 2 highest ranked teams per this other computer formula. Had they just flipped that, if just they flipped that, we would have had Miami, Virginia, Saturday night. Miami wins. They get an automatic bid. Notre Dame is in because there's an extra at-large. If Miami loses, tough break, you're out. Virginia's in. Notre Dame is in because there's that at-large. And James Madison is not in this game. We only have Tulane. We don't have 2 group of 5 teams. The whole system would have worked pretty perfectly. It was one little tiebreaker thing. And this is the problem. We have a 12-year deal we're 2 years into a 12-team playoff. Let some of the kinks work out. Let this thing cook a little bit. We're always just chasing in this sport, just huge reactions and knee-jerk, and we got to do this, we got to do that. Let it cook. Last year we realized, look, maybe it was with good intentions. People thought the top 4 teams should all be champions, and then you're like, wait a minute, that screws up the whole field. Ohio State's playing, like Oregon got a bad rap out of that. Like Boise was great; they were good enough to be in, but did they need to be the 3 seed? We fixed that. These are tweaks. But if that ACC tiebreaker goes, everyone's happy with the playoff. It is such a weird, small, perfectly college football nonsense thing. But that was really all it was. And then to me, with Notre Dame, which is raising my problem really is the 2 group of 5s really waters it down a little bit. But this is still much better than what we had. We have 2 really good first-round games, and then the quarterfinals to me are going to be really excellent. And we go from there. So it's 2. There's 11 games in the playoffs. 9 of them are going to be really good, and that's a lot better than what we had. But Notre Dame to me is like, well, we had our feelings hurt because we thought we were in. We believe this committee was telling us this all of the time, and the weekly rankings, which I don't think we should do. We shouldn't do the weekly rankings. It boxes them in. I don't think I wrote that about, I thought Alabama got left out last year because of this, because the thinking gets in. We shouldn't do weekly rankings, but they do. But is Notre Dame, did they just show up in college football? Are they aware that the committee does all sorts of crazy things at the end? Every year, you cannot predict what the committee's going to do. The idea that Notre Dame sat there going into Sunday going, we're good. I wasn't sure Oklahoma was good. Like, you could open up a new debate and all of a sudden Texas is in over Oklahoma. Like, you don't know. And for Notre Dame to just be like, we were just stunned that this committee did. Like, did you watch the show? Because that committee looked like it didn't know what it was doing the whole time. I don't know. Anyone who would listen to €100 bless the poor guy. He's in a terrible position, but you sat there and go, well, there's a guy that's got this committee. He's on top of things. This will go perfectly. I just think Notre Dame got its feelings hurt because they were naive and weren't paying attention to how these rankings work. They shift all the time and all sorts of crazy decisions get made.
If the university's athletic department is running on the narratives that its athletic director is sharing publicly, maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that they think that way. So,
yeah, maybe. I mean, yesterday they declared they were on one of the greatest 10-game runs in the history of college football. Okay, first off, Indiana, Ohio State, and Texas Tech all had 10-game winning streaks as better than Notre Dame this year against better competition. Like, one of the great 10-game runs, and you played nobody. I love this Notre Dame team. I thought they could. I was excited to watch them. I thought they were one of the teams that could win the national championship and all that. But let's just come on. One of the greatest 10-game runs in the history of the sport.
Come on, dude. BC?
Yeah.
I mean, do you know how hard it is? Do you know how hard it is to beat BC, Stanford, Pitt, and all these schools in a row? I mean, it's unbelievable. It's almost like SMU. It's almost like SMU did it last year. So weird. In their first year, it's the strangest thing. I just don't know how they do it. Don't know how they did it. It's amazing. I agree with you, though. Like, I think they could have won the whole thing. I think they might have won the whole thing. But you can't sit here and have revisionist history. That's what's a little bit irritating about this. It's like, I think when a team that is used to being wronged gets wronged, they accept it and they understand how it goes. When you're a blue blood and you get wronged, a la Florida State a couple years ago, a la Notre Dame this year, a la Georgia a couple years ago, a la Ohio State in 2015. Like, when you're used to being the team and all of a sudden, wait, hang on a second, life's not fair. The panic and the amount of excuse making is pretty remarkable. And the amount of conspiracies that are now created as a result. It's like, well, this can't possibly be above board. How is it not? I guess I'm amazed at some of the messaging.
Yeah, I agree. I think look, they're putting out the AD so Freeman doesn't have to be the one, like, publicly making these, like, emotional things, and that was smart of them. And I'm sure Pete Bevilacqua. Yeah. I think he's just. I don't even know if he believes all the stuff. You can't. I feel bad for the Notre Dame players. I feel bad for their fans because I think, particularly the players, I think they were told by their university, we're in. And, Saturday night, people at the schools, whether it was athletic directors or communications directors or whatever, at a whole bunch of schools and I'm sure they were doing it to you guys, sending texts, calling, hey, we've got this strength of schedule. They're making I have no control over this. But they just want, they're all worried. Everyone else was worried but Notre Dame. Everyone else saw the possibility, hey, you don't know what's going to happen on that last one. The first playoff, I covered this game too. TCU was ranked third going into the last week of the season.
Correct.
The last game of the season. They won 55-3. They outgained Iowa State by almost 500 yards, okay? Total annihilation. And they went from 3 to 6. And I was like, first time. It was the first playoff, and I was like, okay, if you think you're the third best team, how do you think of the sixth? How do you drop? But that's how it is. That's how it works. And I just think Notre Dame, I don't know if they just weren't paying attention. You can't go in naive on this stuff and just say, we're in. We just must be in. They would never drop us. Of course they were going to. Everyone was talking about how they could get dropped. I just don't. I feel bad for the players. They got blindsided. But if you're getting paid to be the AD at Notre Dame, you can't be blindsided. That's part of the job. You can't sit there and just trust the ranking show. They literally say we start anew every week. I don't believe them, but they can start anew every week.
Wild time. Stan, great stuff, man. Thanks so much for hopping on with us. You bring a voice of reason that's refreshing, and I look forward to doing it again soon. Have a Merry Christmas if we don't talk to you before
anytime, guys. You too. Have a great holiday.
There you go. Dan Wetzel of ESPN. That article that I mentioned, if you would like to go read it, it's actually really cool because I do think that he and his perception of the college football playoff or postseason, BCS, whatever it is, has carried on as negative with a lot of people. He brings up a lot of great points about how great of a situation we're in its totality in college football right now. Like I said, Greg, we're arguing about 10-2, 9-3 teams.
Yeah.
Imagine the BCS era doing that. Imagine taking some of those, whether it was an Alabama 9-3, an Auburn 10-2, whatever, USC, Texas. Yeah. People would have laughed at you for saying, well, they should have a chance to compete for a national championship.
100%.
JMU, Tulane back then. Imagine Sean King's undefeated regular season Tulane team, people actually saying, no, they should get a shot to play for a national title.
UCF, undefeated in 2017.
Well, they did. They have one. So that's
different. Right. They do. I forgot that. But that's the other thing that's that's what's made me most frustrated about this situation is that everyone is saying, oh, well, look at how we determined the teams in the 4-team era. Look at how hang on a second. 2 years ago, the criteria was this. 2 years ago, the criteria was this. 7 years ago, the criteria was this. 2004, the criteria was this. It's like, y'all, the only year we can go off of is last year. And the thing that's more challenging now is that the teams that we're considering are super flawed. Super flawed. So if now all of a sudden you're going off eye test exclusively versus who did you beat exclusively versus record versus top 25 exclusively versus strength of record versus strength of schedule, it's like everyone now, you have to go deeper to make a case on your team's behalf, which makes it more polarizing. Because for everything a Notre Dame fan throws my way, I can easily throw 15 things back at them. Whereas in the 14 playoff era, you can only throw one thing back at them, potentially. Like Florida State being out, the only justification I can make for Florida State being out 2 years ago was that their quarterback got hurt. And to me, that's a hard thing to wrap your head around.
Yes.
But they got bumped in favor of an SEC champ that beat an undefeated. Like that, we're talking about unbelievable teams that we were comparing the last couple weeks, 2 years ago. Now we're talking about teams that are like, I don't know.
Did you reference 17 Auburn there? Imagine 17 Auburn now when you could say, hold on, you beat number one twice 2 of the last 3 weekends of the season, didn't have your best player in the SEC championship game and happened to lose
100%.
And saying, you're not even close to having a shot at this thing.
Well,
no way.
They would easily get in now.
Of course. A couple feedbacks here that I want to get to. And your guy Sam Schwartzstein has something great. I want to read that first. If you guys don't know who Sam Schwartzstein is, he played at Stanford, played in high school with Greg. The new kickoff you see in the NFL, he essentially invented that in the XFL a couple of years ago. Like, just a brilliant mind. They alternate digital. What do they call that alternate cast on Prime Thursday nights?
It's not all cast?
No, it's something different. Anyway, he does that. He's in charge of that. He tweets out, in 2022, I got cold called by a big VC firm that wanted to step in and take over the entire Pac-12 before it got sold off for parts. This is right up the PE framework, awesome asset, poorly run, ready to be updated with technology. PE and VC, private equity and venture capital, don't get involved to ride the wave. I thought that's very well stated. They're not hopping on late and saying, all right, let's just grab the benefits of this. They come in where things can be redone to make more.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why they're here. Now, a couple of you tweeting into the show, at Mac and Cube, can always do that, be a part. Someone inside that committee room when Notre Dame came up and kept screaming, against who? And the committee thought, yeah, against who? And thus they were eliminated from further discussion. I like that mindset there. I feel like.
I don't know if it was exactly that, but.
I think they've been listening for years. And yeah, they said.
Long time, first time?
Heard that guy say that somewhere. We should try that in this room. And then they did, and it worked. Also, RJN tweets in, Wetzel spot on. If PE gets involved, they're going to cut, and people won't like it for political reasons. Title IX won't survive, though, that. But it's also insane there's such a thing as non-revenue sports. They need non-spending sports. There's going to be a lot of complications with that in the near future. I have no idea where it goes or how it works. But I will say that there are some opportunities that are most likely in jeopardy now when it comes to collegiate athletics. More on this next, right here on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Fun conversation today. Interesting conversation today. A lot of folks chiming in. The Unhipster tweets in at Mac and Cube. If private equity was in place everywhere, would Lane be at LSU with that current deal, and which coaches would have been fired? I think you could also add maybe would not have been fired. As like, would Lane be at LSU? Maybe start with the question, would Brian Kelly have been fired if private equity knew they were going to have to pay that buyout? Now, there are certain instances we see companies buy other companies for X million dollars, and then 6 months later they close the doors. Those things happen, but
for sure,
they're all fair questions. Just as how differently would some of these big money situations, Greg, be handled if private equity were actually behind them?
Yeah, man, there'd be a lot less emotion, I would assume. Don't know for sure, but I'd assume there'd be a lot less emotion. It'd be more pragmatic, and it would make more sense, some of the decisions that were likely made. Because sometimes I think that we operate in such a world of fear and concern. And that's what ultimately leads to a lot of these decisions being made. And more so, extensions on coaches. Not so much firing, not so much pie and buyouts, stuff like that. To me, coaches get extended for the most asinine reasons you've ever imagined. And I'm all for guys getting money.
I don't even think there are reasons.
If ESPN wants to go and extend Cole Cubelic or Greg McElroy right now, I'm like, all right, that's awesome. But normally in our world, the only way we get extended is if there's like a legitimate fear of us actually leaving. If Joey McGuire, who just received a 7-year extension at $7 million a pop,
because so many people were knocking on his door,
he wouldn't go anywhere. You don't have to pay him. It was a different world when you're Gus Malzahn and you're sitting there in 2017 and Arkansas is offering you in the final year of your deal 7 years, $49 million. So that forced Auburn's hand. Like, guess what? Like, we have to actually pay this guy unless we want him to go. And then he decides to get fired 3 years later. So, I mean, that's part of the problem. Like, we unnecessarily extend when it makes no sense.
Royal Payne tweets in, the truth is eventually the top 50, 60, 70 elite football schools need to break away and separate. Well, that's coming. That is truth, yeah, but we've stated for a while now. That's on its way, and that will be here before we know it. A lot more to get to across the course of the show today. We're going to actually try to talk some college football games. Gabe Eichert coming up later this hour to help us begin to preview Alabama, Oklahoma. And before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners about Bromberg's.
Well, it's the time of year where Bromberg should be on speed dial. I know it is for me. Every year around this time, I head over to Mountain Brook Village, check out the Brombergs and see what they have in stock, because nearly 190 years they have been Birmingham Santa Claus by helping families celebrate the magic of Christmas. From timeless diamond jewelry and luxury watches to fabulous giftware, there's something special waiting for everyone. So give a little sparkle and spread some joy this holiday season at Bromberg's in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit, or visit brombergs.com.
Okay, when we come back, we'll continue this conversation, start previewing Alabama, Oklahoma as well. All that and more next on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. A lot more to talk about, a lot more to get to. Gabe Eicher to help us discuss Alabama, Oklahoma. Get an early preview of that one on the other side. First, we'll go to Derek on the Higginbotham hotline. Wants to talk college football. Welcome in, Derek. How are you?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Doing great, thank you.
All right. Great show again, man. I was listening to you guys talking about the private equity thing, and man, I tell you what, it's almost like the handwriting is on the wall for college athletics if that happens. In my opinion, simply because when you got private equity, from the way that it sounds, the colleges or the academia basically ends up they're steering the ship, but they're no longer driving the ship. You get what I'm saying? So when private equity gets involved, while there's money to be made, to me, that's going to change the face of how we do college athletics going forward. And it almost sounds like it's going to shape up to be some kind of quasi NFL model. And next thing you know, the integrity of the game is no longer college athletics, but it's basically semi-pro. So, and again, that's just kind of a broad view and opinion.
No, it's fair.
I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, but it sounds like the integrity of college athletics is at risk with private equity. I know we have investors leave, people that are aging out and all that kinds of stuff, and the young, I'm gonna call them the teeny boppers. They're not putting their money into college athletics like parents, grandparents, and et cetera. So, it does sound like that it seems like the handwriting is on the wall for college athletics as we know it.
We shall see. Great points made. Appreciate that. We got to get to a break. We'll welcome in Gabe Eichert on the other side to start previewing what we're going to get from Oklahoma, Alabama, round 2. Don't forget that weather is cooling off. You don't want to get caught in the cold. Schedule your system checkup now from a Train Comfort Specialist. Train has been recognized 11 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partner here at Jocks. Visit Train.com to find a comfort specialist near you. Back with more to begin to preview round 1 of the college football playoffs between Alabama and Oklahoma next right here on Jocks. Talk Alabama, Oklahoma here in just a moment with Gabe Eichert. 8:44 Wednesday, December 10th on Jocks. Before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Well, I've been going to Polar Bear Services for a long time. They've helped me with a million things around my home. I always appreciate the experience I get when I have Wes and the guys come out to the house. They've done an amazing job getting my system ready to roll for the cold weather that is likely ahead. And right now, between seasons, you have some dicey situations. You might have the AC running during the day, the heat running at night. Make sure your whole home comfort system is up to the task and get it tuned up or repaired prior to issues coming your way. They can also do new installation. So call Polar Bear Service for any of your home comfort system needs. They can also help you with electrical work. They can also do plumbing. They can do a whole home generator install so you're not in the bind when the power goes out. So remember, every time you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
Gabe Eichert joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline to begin a sort of soft preview of Alabama-Oklahoma round 2 in round 1. What do you anticipate being different about this matchup? Obviously going to be at home this time for Oklahoma, so that's a little bit different. But schematically, from a player personnel perspective, both sides, do you anticipate anything being very different?
Yeah, that's good morning, boys, by the way. It's going to be interesting to see what the adjustments look like, Cole. And I think that Alabama's offensive struggles that we've seen lately it kind of all started with that Oklahoma game. And one thing I don't anticipate seeing Alabama turn the ball over the way that they did in that game. That was, now, to Oklahoma's credit in that one, those were all forced, right? There was nothing fluky or lucky about those turnovers. Those were physical plays that resulted in turnovers for the Crimson Tide and gave, OU scored on defense with the pick six in that game and also got points, the other turnovers in that game. So I would anticipate the turnover battle being a little more even. Oklahoma still probably needs to win that battle if they want to walk out of Norman with the win. But as far as schematics, I think Brent Venables and he's always aggressive. You guys know that. But I think that he may be a little more conservative when it comes to just not allowing Bama the opportunities to have big plays down the field, because as you guys know and as your listeners know, right now, Bama's just really struggling to run the football efficiently, and we'll see if Jay Miller's back for this game, but I could see Venables playing a little more coverage, right, being a little more conservative, especially on early downs. But, these two teams, you are what you are. Right? You just have to come out and execute at a higher level if you want to win the game. But I could see Venables, who is clearly known for bringing the heat, bringing pressure. I could see him picking and choosing his spots a little more and trying to make sure that Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams don't have some game-changing plays when you're bringing pressure. Now, we'll see if this Bama offensive line can figure out its issues and protect Ty Simpson a little better than they did in the first matchup and then they did against Georgia. But, yeah, in a weird way, I think maybe just trying to prevent the big play down the field, maybe more of OU's strategy heading into this one, guys.
What is going on with OU's offense? Because I feel like there's glimpses, but, man, it's just like it's so big play reliant. There's not a lot of trust I have. The downfield throws have not been there for Mateer since the hand injury. Are these things correctable, or are they like Bama, kind of who they are at this point, and they're probably going to struggle to manufacture a ton of points in the postseason?
I'd be pleasantly surprised if everything just all clicks, Greg. Especially I think Bama's defense is playing really good football. I know that people want to say, well, Georgia crushed them. They were put in some really bad spots in that game. Georgia's longest play of the day was 19 yards. Bama did some really good things on defense in that game, and they're just on the field too much because of how the offense struggled throughout that one. As far as OU's offense, it's just the things aren't building upon each other. Like the plays, Greg, great offenses, you're built off your core runs, which leads into your play action and RPO game, which leads into your screen game. And right now, OU just hasn't run the ball efficiently enough to build the offense around the core runs. And John Mateer has not played particularly well. And I'm not sure. I'm sure the thumb is still a factor, right? There's no doubt about it. But when you look at the tape, like the biggest issue has been his decision making. And not only in the passing game, but in the read run game. Like he's pulled some balls that, are clear give reads. He's given some balls that are clear pull reads. It seems like he's lost some confidence when it comes to the decision-making piece of things, and that has to get cleaned up if they want to win this game against Alabama next Friday night. He's got to play really well. I went back and watched the film of the Michigan game a couple of days ago, and it just looks like a different guy, right? So I'm hoping that this break, allowing him to get a little healthier, allow that hand to feel a little better, but just allow him to kind of have a mental reset will be really helpful for OU's offense. But they got to run it more efficiently and make some things easier on Mateer, because right now he's having to make critical decisions, whether it's in the passing game, in the read run game, RPO game. Like he's having to make critical decisions on dang near every snap. And that has led to him making some mistakes. And I think it's kind of made him a little more tentative out there with all the decision making he's having to do. I would like to see us maybe simplify some things in the run game, in the RPO game, and just let him play a little freer.
It's so weird to hear you reference the Michigan game, because I hear that and I'm like, God, is that even applicable now? Because it just feels so long ago.
It doesn't feel like it, Cole. It feels like that was a different team.
Well, and just how long ago it was also. So it's a little bit odd to hear it. Hearing you talk about the Oklahoma offense, one thing that we have described, I have gone out of my way trying to describe, that's so problematic is, what is your foundation? What do you lean on when everything goes to hell in a handbasket if you're that offense? I struggle to find what they even think that is at times.
You put it nicer than I do, Cole, and this is something that Teddy Lehman and I have talked a lot about on our podcast. Teddy's about as level-headed of a defensive guy as you're ever going to find. You know how weird defensive guys are.
Yep.
And I will just ask him, Ted, because sometimes you get into the tape, you get a little deep in it, maybe get lost a little bit. You guys know how that goes. And I'm just like, hey, man, tell me something our offense is good at. And usually when I ask that question, there's a very long pause, like there just was with us on here. And that's a problem, right? I think that's one of the issues. This maybe the main issue is like this group doesn't have like the foundational concepts that you're looking to have, especially in the run game. Like a lot of teams, like you're a split zone team. A lot of teams, you're an outside zone team. A lot of teams, hey, we're a gap scheme run team. Right now, it doesn't feel like the Sooners offense has those foundational plays where they can then build wrinkles off of it. And, this is a perfect example. The best looking play in the Bama game in this first matchup, they ran a play action, like a zone insert play action pass where they threw a nice deep dig to Jermichael Carter, one of the backup wide receivers. And it's just funny because we don't run zone insert, but we're throwing play action off of it. So it's just, some of those things, like they're having their issues.
Just gives them more to prepare for, Gabe.
Establishing
Defense got to prepare for that.
Yeah, so that's my thing is I would like, and I think Ben Arbuckle's really, really good. And, you know, he has schemed some things up wide open, and for whatever reason, Mateer just hasn't found those guys. But it's all going to have to come together next Friday night, because there's no doubt in my mind Bama's going to get healthy and the Sooners are going to get their best shot.
How healthy is Oklahoma right now? How healthy do you expect them to be when they play next Friday night?
I think it'll be the healthiest they've been since, early in the season. The running back position's interesting. Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock both really, really beat up to finish the season. And I anticipate those guys will be ready to go. Our Mason Thomas is the big one, though. Our best player didn't play in this first matchup. We'll see if he's ready to go. I'm sure he'll give it a go. I just don't know how effective he's going to be.
There you go. Okay, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on. See you next Friday.
You, boys. Yeah, brother. Heck yeah. I can't wait, Cole.
All right, Gabe Eichert played at Oklahoma, covers Oklahoma now, helping us with a little bit of an Alabama-Oklahoma preview there. I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health when we go to break. Game Day Men's Health wants to help you feel better. If you're feeling on edge, lacking energy, lacking sleep, they just want you to be a better you. Locker room environment, holistic approach to health and wellness, minimal upfront costs from the programs they offer. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today to find out what they can do for you. Weight loss programs, peptides, and more at GameDayMen'sHealth.com.